Hi! So in January, people like to set goals for the next year, what they want to do in the next year, what they want to achieve, how much money they want to save. And in the book world, people tend to set a lot of bookish goals, obviously. They can often be numerical goals, so they tend to be setting a Goodreads challenge or deciding how much to read in a year or how many pages to read in a day. It can get quite competitive. Goals don't have to be all about the numbers. They don't have to be about how much you can fit in a year. They don't need to be comparing yourself to other people. Like if someone sets their Goodreads goal to 500 books in a year and you're sitting there with your goal at 10, you might feel like you shouldn't be in the book world, especially if you're a book blogger or if you're a booktuber. There can be a lot of pressure to set goals to kind of compare with other people that do have these mad goals and do achieve them. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying these goals are insane or ridiculous. If people set these goals really high and they know they can achieve them, then that's great. But if you know that you can't achieve these crazy goals, you don't need to compare yourself to other people. There are other goals you can set yourself, ones that are more interesting and will make you feel less like you have to compete. I'm going to share 9 different interesting goal ideas that you can set yourself, all to do with reading and books. So if you don't want to set yourself a numerical goal, you can still set yourself some interesting goals to get you interested in reading, kind of get you inspired to pick up books again, but they're not going to make you feel like you have to compete or spend all of your time reading just to kind of smash this insane Goodreads goal that isn't achievable. So number 1 is to go back to kind of nostalgic roots and see if you can read more books from your childhood or from school or from when you were a teenager. Just kind of think back to when you were a kid and some of the books that you loved, some of the books that kind of shaped you as a reader, so things that kind of helped shape your reading experience and helped you realise the kind of books that you loved, and reread some of them. I know a lot of people don't like rereading, especially if you have a big backlist. You want to kind of get through the backlist. But rereading is so fun, especially if they're kind of shorter books from childhood, and they're just so much fun to go back and reread, and they kind of help you remember why you loved reading so much in the first place. Number 2, read books that have specific elements in them, so kind of challenge yourself to read books that have specific themes or different elements that are quite specific. It can be a fun challenge to see what you can get, and it can also kind of encourage you to use the library more if you don't want to buy loads of books in case you don't like them. So an example of this could be authors or characters that are different races, from specific countries, different sexualities or gender identities, books that have interesting settings, so settings that are in different countries or fantasy settings or anything like that. You can even get really niche with it depending on how much you want to challenge yourself. Go really, really niche, and you could go with books that are set on a deserted island, or books that are set on boats, or books that feature large families. Anything specific that you can think of that might come up in books that you will enjoy. Try and read as many books as you can with that theme. If you have a blog or a booktube channel, you could always do that as a blog post or a video. So you could do something about reading books with specific gender identities or reading books by authors from specific countries. It can be really fun, and you're also getting good content out of it too, so it can be like 2 birds with 1 stone. Number 3 is to try out books in a new genre, so a genre that you haven't read before or haven't read much of before. Your goal could be, I will read at least 5 books that are magical realism, or I will read a certain number of books that are mystery thrillers because I've never read many mystery thrillers before and I don't know if I like them. It can be a great way to kind of challenge your expectations. If you think that you don't like a genre, or you're just not interested in a genre, try picking up some books in that genre that you haven't read much before, because you might surprise yourself. You might really love them. You might even find a new genre that you kind of didn't know that you even liked before, and that's really exciting. I've done that recently, where I started reading a lot of magical realism, and it's turned into one of my favourite genres, and now I want to read loads of books that are in that genre, and it's so exciting. It's almost like it opens a whole door for you to kind of explore this territory that you've never explored before because you haven't read this genre before. So think about what genres you haven't read, or if you've read genres before that you weren't a big fan of, note them down and then see which one you're most interested in to kind of give a second chance or to try for the first time, and make a list of books that kind of interest you in that genre, and then you can go and buy them, or you can go to the library and pick them up and just see how much you actually like them. Again, this could be a good content idea if you're a blogger or a booktuber. You could make a blog post or a video about it, just kind of exploring this new genre, and then if you do end up liking the genre, you can then ask people for recommendations. It's such a good way to kind of expand your horizons and find books that you never would have read before that you now love. Number 4 is to save money for every book that you finish. Now, this is something that I've seen recently come up on Twitter with a few people saying that this is what they're trying. It really interests me. I haven't done this before, and I'm kind of tempted to do it this year. So what people are doing is that they're saving a certain amount of money, so whether it's like £1 or £5 or, you know, whatever your currency is, for every book that they finish. So they'll either, you know, if you don't have cash, you can, if you've got a savings account, you can kind of transfer money into a savings account each time you finish a book. You can decide what you want to do with that money at the end of the year. So I know a lot of people total up their money and they'll go and buy new books with it at the end of the year. So it'll kind of be like a treat fund at the end of the year, just to go and have an excuse to buy a load of new books at the end of the year. It's a really good way to get through your backlist or get through some of the books that you already own. It kind of stops you having loads of books just sitting there throughout the year. If you know that you'll save money with it, and at the end of the year you can treat yourself to new books, or you can kind of put that away towards a holiday, or I don't know, anything that you want to buy. If you're trying to save for something and you're struggling to do it, this can be a really good way to motivate yourself to save money and to read more in one go. What could be better? It's a win-win. Number 5 is another one that I've seen on Twitter, and it's kind of the one in, one out rule, where you can only buy a book once you've finished a book, or kind of set a number for yourself. So you can only buy a new book if you've read 3 or 5, or however ambitious you're feeling and however kind of motivated you are not to buy books. I feel like complete book buying bans, so for me anyway, I'm not sure about you, they're just not attainable. Like, I just can't do that. When there's books coming out that are by my favourite authors, or if there's books that have been so hyped and I really want to read them, I just can't not buy those books. I like having new books, like that's something that I like to do, and a complete book buying ban is just a no for me. However, I do really like the idea of you can only buy a new book once you've read a certain number, so maybe like 2 or 3 or whatever. It helps you get through your backlist, it helps you read some of the books that have been on your TBR maybe for ages. It means that you're not just going to keep stacking your shelves with books that are going to just kind of make your TBR sky high, if it isn't already. It'll just make it even worse. This one will help you to read some books that you actually own before you go and buy new ones. Not only that, but it also helps you save money. You're not going to be buying loads of books that are just going to sit there for ages. It will mean that you will actually save money. This means that if you do love to get your anticipated releases, you're not stopping yourself from getting them. You can still go and get them, but only once you've got through some of your backlist. Number 6 is to read books from a specific source each month. So even if you just pick kind of one book from a specific source each month, and by that I mean books from the library, or books that you've got on NetGalley, or ARCs that you've got from publishers, or one off your backlist from a certain amount of time ago. So maybe like books that have been on your backlist for over a year. Pick a source and see if you can read one book, at least one book a month from that source. Obviously don't stress about this. This isn't, all these goals are meant to not stress you out, but this is a really good idea, especially if you've got loads of books on NetGalley. If your percentage is on like 5% and you need to get through some of those books before you can request some more, then try and set yourself a little goal just to read a NetGalley book each month or each week or whatever, to just clear that list of books before you start requesting new ones. Or if you want to start using the library more, give yourself a challenge to get at least one book out from the library each month and read it. Another way this could work is with series. If you've got a lot of series that you've kind of started and not finished, you could challenge yourself to finish your series. So read a book from a series each month. If you have a ton of books that you want to read and you might not have time to binge the entire series in one go, just try and read one from the series each month, and it'll help you clear the series. Even if it does take a couple of months, depending on how many are in the series, it will help you finish it, and it's better than you kind of reading the first book in a series and then never touching it again. Give yourself the goal to read one, maybe two a month just to get through the series, and then you can finish it and move on to something else, and you'll feel less guilty about having like 10 series that you haven't finished yet. Number 7 is to read books like a specific person. So what I mean by this is, you might have seen, if you watch BookTube very often or you read blogs, you might have seen people do this where they read a BookTuber's favourites, or you kind of read like a specific author, or anything that is kind of reading like a specific person can be really fun. You could find out what all of your best friends' favourites are and read all of their favourite books, or even least favourites. Find out from people on Twitter what their least favourite or favourite books are, and make them all in a list, and you can try and work your way through them and see what you think. See if you can kind of challenge their opinions of them or your expectations of them. Challenge yourself to read books that are completely out of your comfort zone. Again, like reading from a new genre, this is a really good way to kind of expand your reading horizons. You can see if you kind of challenge your expectations and find books that are now favourites that you never even thought you would have read before. Number 8 is kind of a few different goals in one, but they're all the same sort of idea, and that's to set yourself some sort of physical, place-related book goals. So I mean, join a book club. If you know there's a book club in your area, say that this year I will join this book club. Or say, if you're not a member of your library yet, you will go and join the library and you will start getting books out from the library. You will try and buy more books from second-hand or indie bookshops. Anything that's like a physical goal, that can be really fun to set, because it's more than just then reading a specific type of book. It's actually getting yourself out there into the world, and especially in terms of things like joining a book club, it's a great way to meet new people who love to read. You can find like-minded people that you can become friends with. I know this from attending a couple of book clubs in the past year and setting up my own as well. I've met some great people through it, and I'm so glad I did it. And that was one of my goals last year, to either attend or set up my own book club, and I did both, and I'm so glad I did. So anything like joining a library or a book club, or buying from specific shops, trying to kind of help second-hand or indie shops, anything like a physical goal, you could try setting yourself one of those. And finally, number 9 is one, if you want to take it to another level, if you want to take your love of books right up there to a new level, you could try visiting some places from your favourite books, or places that you know your favourite author wrote the books. An example of this could be, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you could visit Edinburgh, because there are a lot of places around Edinburgh where Harry Potter was written or based. There's places where J.K. Rowling sat and wrote the books. You could go and have like a little Harry Potter tour. Or if that's not your thing, consider what your favourite books are and visit some of the places from your favourite books. Especially if you know that you have books that are set close to where you're from, you could go and challenge yourself to try and visit some of the places where these books are set. And it's just a really cool way to kind of feel even more immersed in your favourite books, and it could be a fun day out too. So again, it's another win-win. So there you go. There are 9 goals to help you kind of expand your reading this year, to go beyond what you've done before, and to explore new genres, new places, new experiences, and it can be a really great way to have a really good reading year without focusing on the numbers. So without having to compare yourself to other people, which I think is such an important thing. Comparison isn't good, and these are great ways to kind of set your own challenges for yourself without having to compete with other really big numbers, if that's not your thing. So let me know in the comments if you've got any other ideas for some interesting book goals, and you can all help each other out. We can all inspire each other to set some really interesting challenges for the next year. And I'm so excited. I hope if any of these inspired you, then you let me know how much fun you have with them, or if you ended up reading genres that became your new favourite genres, or if you did actually just hate them. That's fine too. So before you go, if you enjoyed this, make sure you click the subscribe button and like this video. It helps me out a lot. I'm really trying to grow my channel a lot this year, and I would appreciate all the help. It means so much to me. So yeah, if you could just click the little subscribe button so you can watch more videos from me, that would mean a lot. I will see you in a few days with a new video, and I hope you have a really good day and have fun setting your goals. Bye! Why is it so hard to position myself? That's not the right phrase. What is the word I'm trying to think of? Anyway, just aren't possible. Like, my screen just went off. What? My voice is going.